I'm not driving, but this is where I unalived my dad back in 1991. And you can't make this up. The only reason I'm over here is because I had a meeting with a lawyer today. They've changed it into a thrift place. I'm gonna go ahead and pull in here. And you really can't make this shit up. Look at those. Those are my initials. BJ. And it's appliance repair place. That right there used to be my bedroom window. And that addition and everything else, I helped build onto this place right here. And that used to be grass and everything else there. You cannot make this up. Yep, this is where I unalived Pop. Sorry, not sorry. Huh. It starts with generational trauma and teaching people that it's okay not to care about another human being, to use them, to exploit them, to sell them, to hurt them. That's a lesson that my father learned. Heck, his father taught him so many disgusting habits when he was young, and he even participated in the unaliving of his own mother. You can't make this up. My father, his father, and his father's girlfriend lured my grandmother to a bridge in Ruskin, Florida. There's trailer parks. It's the Holiday Trailer Park right there. Lured her and stuff like that. Put metal in the back of her head. Disassembled her. Put her in crab traps and threw her out into the Gulf. Now, there's a cold case file on her and everything else that's still opened up by the FBI. My family does not want to believe what my father told me. They don't want to believe what actually happened to Phoebe Filkins. I know. You know why I know? My father thought it appropriate when I was 18 years old, and I'm like, this ain't working. This ain't working. You know what? I got guilted and manipulated into coming here to take care of you. There's nothing wrong with you. This is another manipulative tactic to control me and to use me and to hurt me, and I'm not okay with that. And he says, I need you to help me go and get some TVs. I need these, because he was a seller on top of all the other stuff he did and everything else. And I'm like, okay. And my Uncle Bruce says, just do this last thing and everything else. Maybe this working together will get y'all talking and everything else, and y'all can work something out. Basically telling me that I have to accept this man's behavior and how he's treating me, and I have no say. That's at least how it came across me. So I get in the car and everything else, and of course I'm not looking forward to this trip. And we head out nowhere near where we're supposed to go. Mind you, we live in Polk. We end up going all the way to Ruskin, Florida. Now, on the way and everything else, I'm asking this man, where are we going? He's not saying one thing to me. He's silent the whole trip. And it's about an hour and a half drive to a bridge. Now, there's Stinky and there's trailers all over the place. It's a trailer park. And it was Holiday Trailer Park. I will remember that to the day I die. And he's sitting there and everything else, and I'm wondering, why in the world are we here and stuff like that? And I'm not a very silent person. I'm not. Never have been. I was never able to hold my tongue, even in childhood. That's why I got a lot of the beatings I got, because I'm mouthy. So he starts off, he goes, you see that over there? And I'm like, I'm looking. I'm like, what am I looking at? He goes, that bridge. Do you see that? He says, yes. He goes, that's where your grandma died. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, me, your granddad, and his girlfriend took your grandma, and they put metal with other metal in the back of her head, disassembled her, put her in crab traps, and threw her in the Gulf. Now, there's a cold case file opened up on my grandma, Phoebe Filkins. You can look it up yourself. It's a cold case. All you have to do is read it. But the family members don't want to believe it. And the only reason my pop told me it and everything else is because he wanted to scare me. Because then he went off to tell me and everything else. He goes, you remember we lived in South Carolina for a bit? He goes, we lived all over South Carolina. He goes, you know, I'm not one to like dogs, especially yapping dogs like your mama. And I'm like, he's talking about a woman again. He always talking bad about my mama. I have never saw my mama's face. I never met her. Can't remember what she smelled like, looked like. It was only about 15, 16 years ago that I actually got to see a picture of my mama. I have a handful of pictures of her. So this man is sitting there saying, you know, we lived all over South Carolina and everything else, and I don't like no yapping dogs and bitches and stuff like that. And he goes, I buried me one somewhere in South Carolina. My heart dropped down in my stomach. The amount of fear that came over me, I got out that car. First thought coming, he come to kill me right here. He gonna kill me right here. He threatened it. Heck, I seen him. He directed my brother to murder my sister. Shoot, on the 26th of this month is gonna be the anniversary of my sister's murder. But they said it was an accidental strangulation by a car window. I was there. I saw what happened. I heard it all. It will be burned into my memory and my soul forever and for eternity. So I'm out of the car and he's screaming at me and trying to follow me in the car and everything else. And there was a homeless man and everything else that was paying mind to what was going on. He goes, ma'am, are you okay? I'm not, no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And Pop started hollering at him, leave her alone. He goes, apparently you need to leave her alone, is basically what he was saying back. And I'm zoning. I'm just walking. And he goes, ma'am, do you need, I need to call someone. So he walked me to the nearest phone. It happened to be a motel, a Roach motel. It was the decrepit place and all that. And I called my uncle. And I told him what was going on and everything else. And he told me that he was messing with me, that he was just playing with me, that this is a joke. So it's been being played off as a joke. And I'm like, I don't think it's a joke. I'm not feeling safe. He goes, well, where are you at? So I told him the hotel and everything else. And the homeless guy stayed there. He paid for the night of the hotel and stuff like that. Pop didn't leave. He stayed in the car at the hotel and stuff like that. He would not leave. The homeless guy stayed out at the door and everything else, watching Pop, making sure I was okay. So in the morning and everything else, I called my uncle, and my uncle said, well, he talked to my dad, and my dad promised that he was going to take me to his house, and he had his word. And I'm like, so you're not coming to get me? He goes, well, your dad's already there, just ride home with him. Well, I didn't feel comfortable with that, and the homeless guy actually offered to ride because he needed to go, so he rode with us. Praise Jesus. Because when he got dropped off and everything else, we were where I knew where we were. And if Pop would even try to done anything, I knew how to get where I needed to go from there. So after that and everything else, I just got numb. I got my friends and everything else to go in and get all of my stuff. Everything. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't feel safe. But then he was showing up at my job, my apartment, when I was shopping. He was everywhere. I'm going to have to do a part 2. So when we got back in the Polk County and I knew where I was and everything else, I got out the car. I got out of the car at the gas station and stuff like that when he was refueling. And I started walking. He goes, "Where do you think you're going?" I said, "As far away from you as I possibly can, because I don't want to have anything more to do with you. I hope I never see you again a day in my life." And I turned around and I started walking. Now, he was filling up and everything else. It took him a little bit to go in. At that time, you pumped and then you went in and paid for the gas and come back. Well, the time that he did that and everything else, I was long gone. I went to my girlfriend Chris's house and everything else, and I told her what happened, and her and my other friends, along with my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, went with my husband's father and got all of my belongings out of the house. There was no reason for me to ever go back there. The chapter was closed, so I thought. Up until the point that I discovered that Pop was reaching out to a 6 and 8-year-old little girls, my new nieces. He was going to their school, their bus stop, driving by their house, going by the park. They saw me with him on Sundays and at work and stuff like that, and he was trying to familiarize himself with them through me, targeting them. And I didn't know what was going on, because each time that he would come by the apartment complex, I told him to leave me alone. Each time he come by my job, leave me alone. Each time in public, leave me alone. So it was my wedding and stuff like that, and I invited the people that meant something to me, and he wasn't invited. But my Aunt Carolyn took it upon herself to bring that man to my wedding, where he was absolutely disrespecting me the whole entire time, and nobody had the freaking balls to kick him out of my wedding. They knew I did not want him there. I had to take pictures with a man I did not want at my wedding. He was trying to talk to my nieces at that point, and I had to scream away saying, "No, no, no." Heck, he even tried treating me as a waitress, a tender at my own wedding, trying to get me to take his plates and his cups and everything else. He was absolutely disrespectful. So when the wedding was over and everything else, and me and my husband, got back to the church and stuff, my nieces would come and jump and talk to me and everything else, and they would tell me about seeing my dad in front of their school, their bus stops, going around their neighborhood, going around the park. And I'm like, really? And my eldest niece and stuff like that said, "Yeah, he even said that me and you and Sarah was going to go to get ice cream." Really? Really? That was news to me, this like that. I'm like, "I'll take you for ice cream, but it's just going to be you and me, okay? Just me, you, and your sissy. No, nobody else." I said, "If you see him again, you don't talk to him, all right? He's not a good man. Do you understand me?" "But he seems nice." I said, "A lot of people seem nice, but they're dangerous. Will you promise me that you will not talk to him again?" Yes, I will. I won't talk to him, I promise. I said, "I'm going to talk to your mommy and your daddy and let them know that you made this promise to me." That's all they ever knew. I talked to the parents, and they thought that I was over-exaggerating. Like, they lived my life. You know, they don't know the dangers of what happened in my life and what could happen to their littles. So the very next day, he thought it appropriate to go by their schoolhouse again. And my niece said, we were told not to talk to you. Bye. And that was it. Pop got upset. He come by my job. He was out there honking, and just throwing his hands up in the air and doing this. And I'm like, oh my God. So my boss went out there and said, you know what? We're sick and tired of all of this harassing. What is it going to take for you to leave her alone, leave us alone? This is not healthy and everything else. And there was an officer that came up and everything else and trespassed him from the job. That was the first thing that ever was done to protect my peace, at least there. The law enforcement officer said that they have to catch him on location to be trespassed. So he got caught there and was trespassed, but it was harder with the my apartment building and stuff to do it there. So he was out in the parking lot honking, actually trying to get up the door, asking people to let him in the door and stuff like that. And I finally went down. I'm like, what is it going to take for you to leave me alone? He goes, well, you can start introducing me to your new family. I'm like, well, you went to my wedding. You could have talked to everybody there. You could have got numbers there. You know everybody. You know when services are. You can make the effort to come in and you do it yourself. And I told him, I said, why are you keeping on messing with my nieces? And he goes, they're cute. Why don't you have them come over to play? And I knew exactly what that meant. He thought that I was going to be like my aunts. He thought that I was going to be like all the other trifling women that participated in selling the flesh of children. Because it's not just guys that do it. Women do it too. And they act as if they're high and mighty, and they act as if they're appalled at the thought of it, but yet they benefit from it and they transport and everything else. I wasn't going to be that type of woman. I have dignity. I'm not going to participate in hurting anybody else like I was hurt. So that's when I hatched the plan in my brain. Okay, this is how we're going to play. How am I going to get rid of you? I tried doing it once. I failed. I'm much older. I'm much wiser now. Let me figure it out. And he says, you know, if you come over and help me more and everything else, I won't feel the need to go out and search out company. And that's about how he said it and everything else. Like, really? So you want me back to take care of you and do what you want and be your beck and call girl? Alright. Gonna leave him alone? Yes. Alright. I'll be over there every day after work and stuff like that. I'll help you. And at that time period, I was helping myself to all his food, poisoning it, taking his medicine and dumping it, taking his medicine bottle and his prescriptions where he couldn't even get them refilled, to the point that his head blew up from the inside out. Yep. Sure enough. Not sorry for doing it either. Yeah, the cops know and everything else. One less problem off the streets. He was connected with so many missing persons and stuff like that. Heck, he's been under the radar of the FBI ever since I can remember. Don't mean nothing though, because a lot of them FBI people and the CIA and the government people, they peddle freaking child flesh too. Don't get it wrong. They're the biggest traffickers there are. If there wouldn't be the enforcers. Look them up. Yep, them good old boys. That's basically my story. All right, thank you for watching. So right now, I'm a featured guest, I guess, on the Villains podcast, even though I'm not in attendance. These people are calling me a murderer. I'm not a murderer. I did kill my dad, and I'm not sorry for doing it, considering what he put me through. I mean, come on, guys. That man participated in murdering his own mama, buried my mama alive, directed my brother to kill my sister, which that anniversary of her death and her murder is tomorrow. You can't make this up. I witnessed my brother unaliving my sister in the back of a freaking station wagon in Vineland, New Jersey. 1979. I will never forget that day to the day I die. Y'all are freaking passing judgment over something you have never, ever experienced. And I pray that nobody is ever going to go through what I've had to go through in my life. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. I lived through it. My decision to unalive my father and stuff like that wasn't a very hard one to make, considering I knew what he was fixing to do. I watched this man unalive 3 females in my presence, direct my brother to unalive my sister, direct my brother to have sexual acts with other young women against their will, and record it. I've seen him, and he has used me as bait to lure people and stuff like that for him to take advantage of them. You've not lived my life, and you're going to sit and pass judgment on me because I called you out on your bad behavior. All you're going to be looking like is dumb. Seriously. Now, when my brother realized very quickly what had happened, because he knew the first time that I attempted taking Pop's life and everything else, and he questioned me deeply and all that, and I was very scared of him, so I told him, yeah, I did. The only persons that knew the first attempt was my Aunt Diane, because she cleared up the evidence and stuff like that, and my brother, because my brother beat it out of me. The second time, he knew I did it. He knew it. And out of retaliation, he ordered our 9-month-old baby. She had genital herpes. She lived with it all her life. She had to live with that stigma all her life. Do I feel sorry for what I did? Absolutely not. If I had the opportunity to do it again, I'd do it a lot quicker and a lot faster. Just saying.